Hey, what's up, everybody? We are here with a very rare behind-the-scenes look at some indie game console developments. I am joined by Richard Wyckoff and Mike Z. You guys are with Reverge Labs. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Hi.
What's going on? I know you're trying to fight and talk at the same time. Maybe not the easiest thing ever, but Game Developers Conference is starting up this week. You guys are up here from the LA area to show off your wares, and we're looking at Skullgirls, which I think people can tell is probably a fighting game. You know?
Yes.
But beyond that, give us a little bit of info on how the game is set up. You know, like what category of fighting we're looking at here.
Well, you're obviously looking at 2D fighting.
Right.
And it's air dash friendly.
Okay.
As you can see.
So a lot of air mobility and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
6-button setup.
Okay.
3 punches, 3 kicks.
Okay. So it kind of hails from the Capcom school.
Yes.
Of 2D fighters. Cool. Very cool. I guess it's important to note you guys said that a lot of the UI and stuff is temp right now.
Yeah, we're game. You can see is this is our final art. We're still working on all the HUD elements.
It's pretty rare actually for a lot of developers are kind of squeamish about showing games before they're basically ready to go out the door. So you guys are out here really early with the game.
Well, that's pretty much our philosophy. We've kind of set up Reverge about a year ago after my partner Mill and I had been trying to get a company going for a while so that we could make games faster, better. We recruited Mike after the pandemic shut down, and he'd been basically working on his dream fighting game, and his goal, like ours, is to always have things playable and smooth.
So you're just kind of out there first thing with a playable build.
Yeah. My philosophy has always been people should be playing it and having fun as early as they possibly can,
Sure.
and if it ever gets less fun, then you know what you can change.
Right. So what are the crucial elements to you guys to have a playable build? I mean, obviously you need some art out there. You can't just have a bunch of numbers like punching each other in the face. But beyond like the artwork being done, is it kind of art and code, and then you're kind of ready to hit the ground running?
Well, there was a lot of preliminary design thought put into it before we started, because I kind of sort of knew what I wanted out of the game.
Right.
And most of it was getting that to work. Sorry, I'm being mean at the same time as I'm talking.
Mike, you said a lot to me in the past about your general gameplay goals with making this game. I mean, you've been trying to basically recapture some of your favorite games of the past, right?
Yeah. I miss the old 2D fighters where there weren't as many restrictions on what you can do before developers realized that infinites and all that stuff was a problem.
Right.
So my goal here is to create a fighting game that is as easy to get into as the old ones were, and we're actually doing quite a bit to encourage beginners to play it, and has the same kind of like freedom and creativity with the game systems that they used to, but incorporates more technological advances to try to prevent infinite combos and all that other stuff.
So we're not going to see any kind of like Guile handcuff style stuff in here?
No. Well, not intentionally anyway.
Right. But if somebody finds that, is it fair game? I mean, it made it into the game.
Yeah.
But so you guys are targeting downloadable.
That's right. Yeah.
One.
That's our general aim with Reverge, actually. Primarily downloadable games.
Yeah, it's we've seen, and again, this is all kind of temp stuff here. This is behind the curtain here before the game is actually ready to go out the door. This is what it looks like. But there haven't been any fighting games that I can call to mind that have come out in that space. Fighting games typically have been the domain of like the $50, $60 retail games so far. Are you guys designing this one to be kind of leaner and meaner for the downloadable space, or like what kind of character lineup we're going to be looking at and mechanics and that kind of thing?
This game's definitely still in development, so I think we're going to talk more about the full lineup later on. But we're definitely looking to take advantage of some of the other aspects of downloadable, like easier expansion. That's our tech goal too. So even if we launch with a slightly smaller lineup than people are used to, we have this amazing art team and more ideas than you can shake a stick at.
Sure. Are you guys doing all your art in-house? I mean, it seems like there's, this is all 2D stuff. Like the number of frames of animation required is probably not small.
No, definitely bigger than I thought it would be.
Yeah. There's what are you running, like 1,200, 1,400 frames per character these days?
Yeah, up around 1,400.
Wow. So are you kind of keeping all that stuff in-house, or do you have to go out looking for extra art talent to get that job done? Or?
We have an in-house team of leads. Our art director, Alex Ahad, is he's very well connected in the 2D community, and we have a significant number of individual contractors we've hired. They're mostly in the U.S. actually. We've been hiring people by personal friendship, primarily people who know people, who've worked with people,
Sure.
and people who can pass our artists' very stringent quality tests. So we've been able to get this quality mainly just because we have a lot of very good people working on this.
Cool. So, I mean, obviously, you mentioned knowing a lot of people in the development community down there. I have to assume you guys have got some roots in maybe some bigger scale game development. Where did you guys all work before you kind of reformed in this indie capacity?
Well, my partner in Reverge, Emil Dejetsky, has been at places like The Collective. Naughty Dog was his last employee.
Okay.
I was at Pandemic. Before that, DreamWorks. Started my career at Looking Glass. I guess I would say that the Pandemic shutdown was the real source of Reverge Labs getting off the ground.
Okay.
Mike was a co-worker.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Mike and I knew each other from the last team we were on that I guess Mike was announced, right?
I think it was.
So there was this Mercenaries Incorporated
Yeah,
game.
actually,
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far afield of the topic at hand, but we definitely wondered what happened to that project.
Yeah, well, so Mike and I
did we.
knew each other. Emil and I had been trying to get a company off the ground. Pandemic shutting down was our opportunity. When we started talking to Mike after that shutdown, he's like, hey, I've been trying to get this fighting game together. So we brought him on and the whole Skullgirls team and found Autumn, who had been a fantastic publisher so far with this. So now we're in production and getting this thing done.
Cool. So what's the size of your team? I mean, I'm sure working at an EA studio, there's plenty of red tape and
Yeah.
meetings and middle management and stuff. I mean, how big is your team now, and how liberating is it to kind of have a smaller scale development project going on and that kind of thing?
Oh, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Being able to not have a 5-tier approval process is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're 10 people internally on the
Okay.
Skullgirls team. But when you add up all the contractors who are almost like having regular full-time employees, it's about the size of the teams I worked with back at the beginning of my career at Looking Glass. Like maybe 30 or so people that we're working with constantly. And it's great. We're all in one big room. So I mean, you have any questions for anyone, you just shout.
Right. You kind of know what everybody's doing all the time, right? Yeah, like 15 years ago or so, you had like this sort of garage development model that went away as all these teams started ballooning and budgets started getting bigger and bigger. And
Yeah.
it's now, like, you guys have been around the block a few times and know how to make games, but now you're kind of getting back to that small scale where you
Yeah.
got that freedom again.
Yeah, we wanted to keep using AAA development techniques, but apply them to this downloadable space. And,
Right.
I guess honestly, we just don't want to work for 3 years on games again.
Yeah, sure.
Let's make games in a year or two,
Right.
and then make another one
So-
or expand it.
So you said you guys formed about a year ago.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of time frame for when you expect this one to be done, or is that kind of a wait and see?
Later
at the
this
moment?
year, sort of.
Looking off camera toward the public relations.
What can we say without them garroting us?
Right.
Take one. Action.
I guess we'll defer to the PR answer.
All right,
on that
well, I
one,
guess
but
we'll-
later this year.
We'll wait for a press release then. But I mean, obviously you can move pretty quickly, right? I guess you
Yes.
probably see new features and
Yeah.
new art and all that stuff going in kind of day after day.
Yeah,
right?
and it's really very much about get the characters in at this point. Like,
Right.
you can see the engine stable, the graphical features are there. There's more art features like all the hit effects you see right now are temporary. So we got to do
Right,
special
right.
effects in this. These two characters are complete actually.
Okay.
And these backgrounds you're looking at are basically complete.
Okay, cool. So the process is sort of get the core characters and art in and working, and then
Yeah.
you can kind of layer as much art and effects and stuff as you want on
Yeah.
top of that, right? Cool.
And actually, Mike should talk much more about how the game actually plays, but it's important for him to play these characters early so that they can get a lot of hands-on loving, basically.
Yeah, we've been having playtests and all that other stuff, so
Take one. Action.
sure, I can talk a bit about the gameplay if you want.
Sure, yeah.
Let me do that so the other character won't die. Okay, so it's very versus gamey, very air dash oriented. While,
Right. When you say versus, you mean sort of Marvel versus Capcom and that kind
yeah.
of thing, right? Cool.
They're just sort of called generally the
Yeah,
versus
right,
games.
right.
So you have chains and special moves and air special moves and all that stuff. You also have push block, so just hit me with something. See?
Okay.
Right. So if you just hit 2 punches while you're blocking,
Right.
it forces the opponent away from you.
Okay. So a lot of pretty technical stuff in here. Then this is definitely not just sort of like fireball and dragon
No.
punch, meat and potatoes style fighting.
No.
Gotcha.
Mix-ups, resets, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And because of that, one of the things that falls out of this genre pretty easily is infinite combos.
Mm-hmm.
So we took a really unique approach to solving that, which is basically, so I'm a player,
Mm-hmm.
and the first thing that I do when I look at a game like this is try and break it, right? You want to find the absolute possible cheapest thing you can do. So I know what players are kind of looking for, and it's easy loops and things like that. So our approach was to assume that the player is going to try to find the most abusable stuff they can find, and instead of building the game to not let the players do that stuff, it's to detect that stuff and then stop it, right? So instead of changing the character so that you can't do something that's repeatable, which is what most game makers have tried to do, we just kind of let you do whatever. And all right, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
So that they're not standing around too. So,
Showing is easier than telling, right?
so if I do this incredibly easy infinite, see how the hit sparks are all red?
Right.
Right. So initially when I start, they're not. Right. But as soon as I do a loop, if I can do a loop,
Okay.
right? So just hit any button.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
And
So the game basically knows that you're cheesing it, basically.
yes,
Okay.
the game knows you're doing an infinite. So
Got it.
if I do anything, see?
You're basically very easily able to break out of that.
Yes.
Okay.
But as long as I vary it up, right? So if I do something different every time, as soon as I
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's literally as simple as like working one extra kick in there, and that'll kind of break that chain of repeatability.
But eventually you run out of stuff you can do.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
We're also doing a lot